Gonna stop talking at the end down there.
Sorry, Susan, we're just talking about signs.
You're not recording.
All righty. I would like to call this session of the Huron County Library Board meeting to order. Looking at point one, approval of the agenda. Are there any comments or questions towards today's agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to move that we follow the recommended motion that the library board agenda for June 12th, 2025 be approved as presented. All in favor?
Nick, can I interrupt you just for a second? Can I have a mover
Yes,
and
of
a
course.
seconder?
Sorry, can I have a mover and a seconder? That's Councillor Fazanet, and is that, sorry, Jane?
Yes.
Perfect. And
Call the question, please.
yes,
Nick, can you just call the question? All in
Sorry.
favor?
all in favor? And that carries. All right. Point three, does declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Any points the board wishes to raise? Seeing none. Susan, do I move on this point as well, or do I move to the second?
There were no
do I move to the next
declarations, so
ones?
we can move to point four, approval of the minutes.
Perfect. Moving to minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes for the meeting last month, May 14th, 2025? Seeing none. Could I get a mover and a seconder to for the recommended motion that the minutes of the Huron County Library Board meeting of May 14th, 2025 be adopted as circulated? That's Sydney. And Trevor.
I see Councillor Becker as well. Oh, okay.
Whatever.
Sorry,
That's
I didn't
fine.
see you at the back there, John. I
It's okay.
apologize. You're all the way at the back there. I need to squint. I'm sorry. Oh no, you're on a different camera. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Anyways, we have our mover and a seconder. And gonna call a vote. And that passes. Motion is accepted. And now we're going to move on to presentations. Presentation one, the McCall-McBain update presented by Danica Bell. Danica, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you for having me here. Just wanted to start with just a little bit about myself. I live in Huron County and I am an avid library user. I've worked or volunteered with youth for the past 15 years. My background is in healthcare, community programming, and anthropology. And I've been hired for a 2-year part-time contract role as the youth program developer that is a part of the McCall-McBain Foundation funding. I'm going to be speaking to you today. We're going to start off with talking about youth as a strategic priority for the county, the programming values that's a part of the library, talk about the McCall-McBain Foundation, give a little bit of an update there, talk about the youth program developer role and what we've been doing, and then also the impact that we've been having as well. Next slide. So I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. The Huron County Library actively seeks out input from youth to ensure that they feel welcome and represented at the library. The strategic plan also includes having youth be aware of the full complement of the library services. The library learns and understands the unique needs of youth in order to better serve them. And the hope and the goal is that youth become lifelong library users and ambassadors. Next slide. So because the library is an important contributor to the fabric of the county, I'd just like to take a second to acknowledge how the work of the library strategically aligns with the Huron County Council priorities and the Economic Development Strategy Plan.
Strategically aligns with means that something is in strong agreement.
Okay, my phone is not going.
So when we look at these various priorities and strategic plans, it's easy to see that there are some shared values across the county. And these values also underpin the youth programming that's occurring at the library. Next slide, please. So these values are engaged, meaningful, understood and welcomed, lifelong library users and ambassadors. So I'm going to talk a little bit later about programs such as Nerf battles and video games, but I encourage you to keep these shared values in mind because the programs have been intentionally crafted to deliver these themes based on youth input. And these values also align with the McCall-McBain Foundation, whose funding has been pivotal to enhance the youth programming in Huron County Library. Next slide. So Marcy McCall-McBain is originally from Huron County, and John McCall-McBain is originally from Niagara Falls. As a foundation, they invest in expanding opportunities in both of their hometown communities. They understand that youth in rural communities have more limited opportunity to explore and grow more so or less than their peers in the bigger cities. In our area, their flagship initiative is the McCall Huron County Student Scholarship, and they invest further in rural well-being and health, particularly youth well-being and mental health, and also support a variety of initiatives such as ours that build stronger rural communities. The McCall-McBain Foundation identified 4 Huron County communities for youth focus. They also have hired, or within their funding, there was the hiring of a 2-year part-time youth program developer, that's me. And my role is a short-term position that supports the youth-focused initiatives, which also includes increasing the staff capacity for programming development once my role is ended. So youth-focused items were identified and purchased for youth programming. The cricket is also a part of our makerspace activities. And I often recommend to adults to save the trip to London for a virtual reality experience and take their kids or the grandkids to the library to use the VR set. It's really fun. Next slide. So my role focuses on tween and teen programming, community partnerships, outreach, the makerspace, and capacity building. The community partnership has been a key element. We're strengthening the relationships between high schools and their local branches. We've also have a good partnership with the Well, which is a youth wellness and mental health service that collaborated with Exeter Library to offer the Youth Hub, which was a drop-in program activity for youth aged 12 to 25. The partnership also included a very successful coffee house event, which also was in collaboration with other partners. And the Well has recently moved on to a larger space in Exeter, but will continue to be a partner of the library. We're also strengthening our relationship with the Tanner Steffler Foundation, which is another youth wellness and mental health partner that hosts monthly youth events at the library. Some new partnerships have included the Blythe Kids Club, which holds community events for up to 400 children in North Huron, and the Huron Perth Children's Aid Society. And this partnership will bring youth who may not be living by their childhood branches back to the library, as well as kids living in group homes or street involved, bringing them back into some programming. And this is all done in tandem with the work being done with the primary schools and the early on years. Next slide, please. So engaging with youth is also done through meaningful programming that is of interest to the youth. So this particular activity, it's a Minecraft paper circuit. It involves laying the pathway for simple light circuits. And for older youth, there's a portion that also includes a switch component. A similar activity is a holiday card with a light up Rudolph nose, which my adult brain thinks is super cute, and let's do that. However, when you when you shift into a youth culture mindset, it's easier to see the appeal of the same activity packaged as one of the world's most popular video games. The technology and the science learned is the same in both of these activities, but Minecraft is going to draw in more youth than the Rudolph holiday cards. Next slide. If we look at the numbers, it's clear that there's an increase in youth programming attendance. That's been growing each year. And I just want to point out that the 2025 numbers are just for the first 3 months of the year, January to March, which is really quite impressive. And the numbers are important, but so is the feedback from youth. And their enthusiasm has also made those of us delivering the programs feel that the work of the library and the county is heading in the right direction. Next slide, please. So just thinking about those values that we discussed earlier, I'd like to finish off with some recent quotes and comments heard at youth program activities. Next slide, please. So youth are engaged. I love the library because my friends are here. I read here. I learn new things and have fun. 13-year-old. Next slide, please. Programs are meaningful. The last time I came regularly to the library, I was in daycare, and now I come every month for Dungeons and Dragons. 18-year-old. Next slide, please. Youth feel understood and welcome. I come to the library to see my friends and play video games. I come because there are free computers, free Wi-Fi, and free video games. Age 12. And lifelong library users and ambassadors. I think what you are doing, bringing in more youth programming, is pretty cool. The library was always a community place when I was a kid. Now more teens are coming, and I like this. Thanks for having me. Any questions?
Excellent work, Danica. Any questions or comments for her from the board? Excuse me, Warden?
Yes, thank you, Nick. Just wondered, that's pretty impressive that, was it 565? in the first
Mhm.
3 months? That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive. Do you anticipate that momentum to keep going? Or do you think that'll level off? Or do you think word of mouth is just going to keep bringing more out? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to keep increasing. You'll see that there's kind of a sharp number also in just the programs that are being offered, and that's passive and active programming. So just days available for drop-in activities, which are bringing up one youth comes and then more youth come, and it's pretty exciting to see.
Impressive, actually.
Yeah, it is really impressive. This summer, we'll be rolling out a county-wide campaign. It's themed, and it's getting a lot of really good promotion. And I think that we're going to see a lot of kids coming out and then continuing on as well.
Good one.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm just going to comment, Danica, that I thought that was excellent, and I know that the county is very privileged to have access to the Call McBain Foundation, and it's very clear that you're making sure we get we get a real bang for our buck. So, thank you very much. And
Thank you for having me.
seeing no further comments or questions, the recommended motion is that the Huron County Library Board receives a presentation by Danica Bell, Youth Program Developer, dated June 12th, 2025, titled McCall McBain Update, as presented for information. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Sydney and Jamie? And go to vote. And that is carried. Thank you so much, Danica. And let's see here. Moving on to next point, board member comments. Are there any comments? And is that Jane I see?
Jane?
Yes.
Yes, I attended virtually the board assembly meeting for libraries from 40,000 to 80,000 members. Susan, I'm particularly glad you're here to hear this. There was a lot of comments about how the library shouldn't be doing what's said in the meeting. The library should be doing what only the board members say individually. And that struck me as an odd way to think about things. And then there was a lot of comments about the library board has no capacity to make bylaws for themselves or even make procedures for themselves. And that also struck me as not the way to run an efficient library. So again, to my way of thinking, it really goes back to Huron County and Council, who have said quite clearly, you act as a board. Once the board makes a decision, you don't go out publicly and start saying, well, that decision was wrong and I'm right and my agenda needs to go forward. And we certainly follow procedures and bylaws that are based on what the county does. So again, it goes right back to the onboarding. It would not occur to me or anybody else around this table, I don't think, to state publicly, well, I don't agree with anything that they're doing. I'm just along, and it just would not happen, I don't think. So that goes back to council, and I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very
Right,
much for that,
thanks,
Jane. I can only speak from my own experience, but I know a couple of people from my time at Durham College when I was doing library tech diploma. A couple of people are working in libraries now, and I've spoken with them about their library boards, and it sounds like we have a very functional one. So, and that's very nice to hear. So, and if there are any other board member comments, seeing none, I'm going to move on to point number 7, reports from the library staff, the monthly update, April 2025, as presented by Beth Rumble. Beth, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Or no, you're not. Sorry, Mr. Vice Chair. I don't know. Just a couple of pieces that I'll bring to your attention from this report that there's mention in there, and these are just mostly pieces for clarification or board member understanding. There's mention of a bridge webinar that our information services librarian participated in, and that's a program that Bridge is the old name, Library Impact Ontario is the new name. You may hear us refer to either of those, but the understanding piece of that is that it's a tool that helps us demonstrate the impact of specifically technology and the digital offerings that libraries provide to their communities. So we're still fairly early in our stages with using that tool. We've only done one public survey, one staff survey. So we will continue to do those to build that story of the impact that we're having on our community. The added benefit of that is it also acts as a gap analysis that we can see through the public survey and the staff survey where there are gaps in our technology offerings or training levels, and then we can develop programming and training appropriately. So I just wanted to clarify that piece for all of you. You will also see under the youth heading, just to build on what Danica had presented on, you can see that there's things happening across our system that all of our teams and branch managers have done a ton of work that's contributed to that number. The increase that we're seeing, that everyone is really pulling on that part of our strategic plan heavily, and we're seeing the impact. And Danica did mention the movement of the well hub that I was going to reference, that they have found a more permanent location in Exeter. My understanding is that it's 1 day a week, so the library will continue, as Danica said, to partner with them and continue to welcome youth on the other days when the hub isn't open to youth, that they are still seeing the youth at the library because they've established that relationship, which is really nice to see. Another training piece that you'll see under literacy, that we sent some branch assistants to RA in a day. So when we talk about readers advisory, because I do want to be mindful of when we use what can be library speak to some of you, that readers advisory is basically, it's a really critical skill that we provide at libraries, as far as matching readers to books that meet their interests. So it really is a skill if people are interested in, plot, character development, pacing, all of those pieces. So that was the training with respect to readers advisory, is what we are making sure that our staff are up to date in. And lastly, I just want to touch on, it's pretty self-explanatory in the report, but just the switch that was stolen from the Goderich branch. Unfortunately, it was not found, but we are very grateful for the anonymous public donor who donated funds to be able to replace that. And we are taking measures to better secure. It was very well secured, but we are learning based on the ingenuity of the theft, what more we can do, and applying that in our other branches as well, that we now have more gaming systems available throughout the system. So keeping that in mind to hopefully prevent future thefts as well. I will leave it at that unless there are any questions in the report.
Councillor Basnet.
I just want to comment on the Youth Well Hub and the aspect of all that. So I sit on the cabinet with the Youth Well, and I think it's amazing that they started at the library in Exeter, then it grew to a bigger thing, which is absolutely amazing. But they opened one in Goderich, what's today, Thursday, so Tuesday. So we have one at the Kinsman Center in Goderich once a week as well, because for the same reasons as Beth stated, we don't want to take away from what the library is doing, but we wanted it to be a location close to the schools. And the Kinsman's like literally a hop, skip, and a jump in a way. So, and I know they're opening one up in Kincardine, I believe, next week as well. So our plans are to open up as many as we can. And they start small. It takes a little bit to get the youth in there. But once, I know Exeter for the first few weeks, they were only seeing one individual. And then next thing you know, it flourished into about 30 now, I believe, are the numbers that we're getting. So thanks for those comments.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll just finish off with a comment. Beth, I'm really happy to see that there was a I'm pleased to see that there was a happy ending to that missing switch story, even if it's the one, even though it's not quite the ending we were hoping for or expecting. That was a very generous donation by a member of the public. So, all right, and so moving on to the recommended motion that the Huron County Library Board receives the report from Beth Rumble, County Librarian, dated June 12th, 2025, titled Monthly Update, April 2025, as presented for information. Can I get a mover and a seconder? That's Jane to move, and Sydney. And let's go to a vote. And that carries. Moving on to policy review. Point number 1, information services policy update presented by Beth Rumble. Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you. Through you, Vice Chair. This is just being brought forward to the board for the final review. It was previously presented at the May board meeting.
Any questions or comments on the policy? Seeing none, do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion that the Huron County Library Board receive the report from Beth Rumble, County Librarian, dated June 12th, 2025, titled Information Services Policy Update, as presented for information, and further that the Huron County Library Board approves the information services policy as outlined?
Mr. Chair.
John, that's one for you. Anybody else? And Trevor. So, call the vote. And that carries. Seeing no correspondence, we move on to financial statements. Financial statements for the month ending April 30th, 2025, as presented by Lisa Harvey. All right. Is Lisa doing a presentation with us or no? All right. Any comments or questions regarding Lisa's report? Seeing none, the recommended motion is that the financial statements for the month ending April 30th, 2025 be received for information. Can I get a mover and a seconder? And that's Patricia, and seconded by Sydney. And move to vote. And that carries. And moving on to point 2 in financial statements, 2024 library year-end financial review as presented by Michael Bloomhagen. Michael, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Nick. So yeah, it's my pleasure to be before you as a board once again today. I just come once a year and I always enjoy coming. I always seem to have good news to present and to share with the board. It's not always the case at some of my other council meetings. So, so yeah, really, I just want to say that you know, Beth and Jenny and the team at the library, they always do a great job with managing their budget, and this year was no different. They ended up with a variance, positive variance to budget. So great job to the team there at the library. They do a great job managing their funds. So overall, just a small surplus, about 146,000 compared to the funds raised in the budget. So I think we estimated taxation about 3.65 million, and we came in at 3.5 million in terms of actual expenditures. So if the purpose today, just review some of the capital and operating expenditures on a high level basis, but then also look to approve the draft audited financial statements. So those are the statements that currently in draft. KPMG has prepared those, and with your approval today, then they can issue the final statements for the library board. But they just don't have the same level of detail as what some of my other financial report has, which just has some more information there on some of your more drill down into some of your more specific accounts and also some of your capital expenditures. So overall, if we look at the one attachment, so Susan, it would be the library year-end financial reports, if you just want to bring that one out. So this is our internal statement. These are just internal numbers that we manage. So if you can just go to the first page. And I do want to apologize. Normally I have, so just page 1 there, Susan. Page 3.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
It's hard to get good help.
It is. But we'll get you there.
No, just keep moving.
Page up.
On, in front.
So I do want to apologize. Normally I have like title pages like Appendix A, B, and C, but I was scrambling to get this in. I was after the deadline, and I just missed putting the appendix or the page numbers in. So page number 1 is Appendix A. So just in the report, like I say, refer to Appendix A. Well, in this case, it's page 1. So this is just our high level, just showing very high level where we're at budget to actual. So budget levy, we raised in our taxes 3.65 million, and based on our actual levy expenditures, we ended up at 3.51. So that's where we have our levy surplus of 146,000. So there is a prior period adjustment there, not related to this year's activities. It was just an asset adjustment that we had to make. There was depreciation that wasn't being calculated correctly on some of our assets, so we had to do a small adjustment for our year-end openings, but that doesn't actually impact this year. So if we adjust for that, the actual surplus would be 125,000 for the year. So if we go to page 2, again, these are our internal operating statements. And these present in more detail the actual financial activities on an operating basis for the library. I'm not going to go into them, but just wanted to highlight some of the larger variances, positive variances. So really the main contributor to the surplus was the salary and benefits. So there was some $78,000 in terms of attrition management savings for library. And that was the main contributor to the surplus. And just throughout the budget, there's some operational savings throughout the budget as managed by the library team. There were a couple carry forwards, so it actually looks like there might be some savings within the budget, but we actually set those up as carry forwards. So if you look at the very bottom of this page, so just scroll down slightly, you'll see an amount transferred to operating reserve carry forward. So there's 20,500. So there's two projects that were budgeted in operating that we didn't complete this year. We're carrying those forward into 25. And those are, so essentially we raised the funds in 24. We're setting those funds aside so we don't actually have to raise them again in 25 when those projects are completed. So that's related to some booking software and also the book drop at Live. But overall, a very good year operating wise for the library. So Appendix B, sorry, that's Appendix B. So that's pages 2 and 3. So if we go to Appendix C, which is pages 4 and 5, these are your capital activities or capital expenditures. We'll stick with that page, Susan.
Yeah.
So these would be your capital, both. So your tangible capital assets that we have to account for PSAV accounting requirements, and also some of your minor capital projects. So here is just showing your various projects that were identified through your budget process last year, and showing the actual expenditures to budget, and also which projects were being carried over into 25. So any of those ones that are being carried over, for example, the $15,000 for the Clinton Library, those are funds that we're setting aside. I've got those on the corporate balance sheet, funds set aside, and we'll have that available for this year. And while not listed in the statement, we do have some library reserves. Those are booked corporately. So we have $161,000 for the book reserve. And we have in your CAP reserve, so that is a former community access placement or program reserve. There's 66,000 in there. So those are available funds for some project that the board would deem appropriate for the library. So. Okay, so if we want to close this one, so this is just the internal statements. So now we will open up the other attachment, and these are the draft audited financial statements for the library board. And I'll just touch on these high level again. Page, I think it's maybe 3 or 4. So this is just your independent auditor report, just saying that everything is kosher. Keep going, please. Okay, so this is your statement of financial position for the board, or kind of formerly known as the balance sheet. Not a lot of changes over last year, but I did want to highlight a couple things. So we do have a cash amount in here, quite a big increase over last year. So there's 22,000 reflected there. So this, we enhanced our reporting a little bit, and we're recognizing the cash that is on hand at the various branches, which we used to not include right away. Like previously, they would have been sent up to the county. We deposit in the main bank, record that as revenue. So we're just being a little more accurate in terms of reporting and actually reflecting the cash that's currently on hand at the branches. That will eventually end up at the county recognized as revenue. So that is one change for this year. The due from County of Huron, that is essentially replaces a bank account. So if you were independent, you would have a bank account, and that would be essentially what is in your bank account to discharge all of your operations or your liabilities. So that is in effect what your bank balance would be if you were standalone. Under the financial liabilities, pretty much consistent for the accounts payable and accrued liabilities. The majority of that, so the accrued liabilities is, there's about 85,000 in there for vacation accruals for your staff. So if there's outstanding vacation at the end of the year for county staff, we're allowed to carry forward up to 1 year's worth of, or 1 year's equivalent of vacation. And that would be reflected. We report that on our financial statements. We accrue that as a liability. So 85,000 is there for vacation accruals, and the balance of that would just be your regular trade accounts payable, and that would just be timing over year end of your invoices. So from when it is expensed versus when we actually pay it. So that would just be regular trade AP, and the deferred revenue, a little bit of an increase there, and that would be directly attributed to McCall McBain. So we received 60,000 at the end of last year for this year. So that would be sitting in your deferred revenue. So that's why you see a little increase there from 115 to 147. The balance of that would be just other fundraising accounts that would be available for library use. And the prepaids, minimal change there, but essentially what the prepaids are, those would be expenses that you would pay in 24, but the actual expense doesn't relate to 25. So it's just a timing thing. So even though we pay it in 25, we set it aside and it's expensed we pay it in 24 and we set it aside and it's expensed in 25. So that could be like a conference that, for your library conference, we pay it in December, but the conference doesn't happen until January, February, and when we actually expense it. So, and the next page, please, Susan. This is just your operating statement. High level, it's aggregated, so very similar. This is the high level aggregation of what you've seen in the previous report. But this does not include your capital expenditures or any reserve activities. But overall, we had a surplus. Again, you see that just under the revenue, the County of Huron, that would essentially be the taxes that were raised for the library. But again, overall, just main savings within salary and benefits, and also just overall administration. So I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions.
Awesome. Any questions for Michael? Seeing none. Let's. We're just gonna pull up the agenda again. Excellent work, Michael. The recommended motion is that the Huron County Library Board receives the report by Michael Blumhagen dated June 12th, 2025, titled 2024 Library Year-End Financial Review, as presented for information, and further that the Huron County Library Board approves the 2024 draft audited financial statements. I need a mover and a seconder. Patricia and Jane. Call to vote. And that carries. Thanks again, Michael. And so, I don't believe that there's anything for a close to the public session. Then we will move on to point 12, next meeting. The next meeting of the Huron County Library Board will be on August 14th, 2025 at 9 a.m. And it's time for adjournment. The recommended motion that the Huron County Library Board meeting adjourn at 9:38 a.m. Can I get a mover and a seconder? And that is the warden and Councillor Bazinet. Call to vote.
First time
And
there.
that carries.
They have to go to the library board to be able to do that.
Yeah, because I normally am the chair.
The